Hey there, fellow wanderers. You find yourself standing at the entrance of a tomb, buried beneath millennia of sand, shrouded in a silence that feels older than time itself. The air is cool, a stark contrast to the unforgiving sun that blazes above ground, and the faint scent of age-old incense lingers in the passageways. It's dark, the kind of dark that makes you rely on something other than sight to guide you forward. A place so quiet, you might just hear the echoes of ancient whispers if you listen closely. This is not a fairy tale. This is a reality etched into the sands of Egypt, waiting to unfold its secrets even as it holds myriad mysteries close to its dusty chest. So before we dive deeper, I ask only this. If this kind of raw, unvarnished truth speaks to you, click like, hit subscribe, and leave a trace of yourself in the comments. Tell me your city, your time, your state of mind. Now, dim the lights. Let the hum of your fan blend with the wind of centuries past. Let's begin. And remember, in medieval times, even survival was a luxury. As your eyes adjust to the gloom, visions of the ancient world start to paint themselves on the canvas of your imagination. You're stepping into an architectural marvel, one that has persistently whispered history for countless centuries. Each step into the tomb's chill is a journey deeper into the narratives left behind by a civilization that flourished along the nourishing banks of the Nile. You trudge with reverence, knowing that this sanctified space was not intended for the living, but crafted as eternal sanctuaries for the departed. Breathing in and out, you can almost feel the rocky corridor stretching out before you, hemmed with hieroglyph-laden walls that still defy easy interpretation. These corridors, after all, were etched with stories not merely for decoration, but to guide and protect the souls of those who remain inside forever. Some say every hieroglyph tells a tale, yet scholars continue to debate whether we've barely scratched the surface. The Egyptians believed in an existence that transcended death, and their tombs were tangible projections of that belief. Your fingers trail lightly across the cold stone, and, for a moment, you flirt with the impulse to turn back. An impulse tempered by the tantalizing promise at the corridor's end, the antechamber, where secrets await their whispered telling. The path eventually leads you into a room where the air feels quiet as still, as if all sound and time have hushed in respect for the somnolent monarchs resting there. This is royal company. Even if it feels, let's face it, a little crowded for a burial chamber. Imagine throwing a housewarming party and forgetting to send everyone home. For thousands of years, here lie the kings and queens of ages past, enshrined in opulent yet eerily personal writings and symbols. Sealed within ornate sarcophagi, their bodily forms rendered eternal through the magical art of mummification. The mummy, wrapped in bandages now frayed by time, would have felt snugly secured in its sarcophagus, a resting pod more artfully crafted than some modern luxury cars, which, by the way, is saying something. Luxurious treasures are strewn about the chamber, a king's ransom in jewels, amulets, statues, for the Egyptians believed these earthly possessions were indispensable in the afterlife. Sensitive noses might catch the faintest hint of resin and myrrh, lingering testimony to the ancient art of preservation designed to thwart the inevitable decay. Quite the feat, considering even today's sour milk has a shorter shelf life. As you gaze around, enchanted hieroglyphs almost seem to dance along the walls in the flickering light, like a propaganda piece. Here the dramas of life and afterlife are etched with unerring precision and some baffling beneficence. They display scenes of daily life alongside fantastical depictions of celestial voyages, a combination that can perplex any museum guide. Legends say these inscriptions hold immense power, some meant to protect the departed, while others merely entertain their spirits. Historians still argue whether these texts genuinely held necromantic power or were just ancient top 10 ways to entertain a pharaoh in the afterlife guides. Patience, fellow wanderer. As you stand on the precipice of the vast unknown tomb network, every nook and cranny unfolds like pages in a book that refuses to be rushed. Each turn hints at the potential for unexpected discoveries. A misstep could plunge the unwary into traps set by ancient architects, whose paranoia about tomb robbers perhaps matched the price of ancient Egyptian property insurance. But right now, you're not just a passive observer. You breathe the history, grappling with its solemnity, magnetism, and the absurd intricacies that make our past more unpredictable and vastly more interesting than any fictional tale. While standing in that chamber, with legends whispering around you like invisible phantoms, you begin to feel what's been dubbed the mummy phenomenon. Was it a promise to return forever, or an ancient joke taken way too seriously? As you ponder these timeless tombs, leave your mark in the layers of narrative here, whether it's a question, a smile, or simply echoing one of the 1,000 voices etched in stone. You take a deep breath, inhale this wondrous blend of reality and speculation, and shuffle forward into the next chapter of exploration with the same quiet curiosity of a sand-encrusted desert fox, always waiting for the dawn. As you continue your deliberate journey through the corridors of time, the question of how these ancient beings came to be preserved so remarkably leads us to the heart of Egyptian mortuary rites, the artful choreography of the mummification process. The air around you feels dense with history, as if each particle holds a silent memory of rituals that stretch back thousands of years. The murmur of the Nile gently echoes in the distance, a lapping reminder of life sustaining an entire civilization that viewed death not as an end, but merely a passage. To the ancient Egyptians, preserving the body was of paramount importance, ensuring the soul's safe passage into the afterlife, a concept more precious to them than the gold that accompanied their kings. It wasn't a simple job either. Imagine planning your own farewell ceremony with more sessions than modern wedding preparation. Every aspect of mummification was swathed with elaborate rituals, steeped in religious and cultural significance. The process began with a purification rite. Priests donning the mask of Anubis, the jackal-headed god of mummification, talk about wearing your favorite pop culture character merch, would wash the deceased in sacred water brought from the Nile. It's ironic when you think about it, bathing the dead in water that was essentially the elixir of life. Once cleansed, the body was ready for what might be humorously called the Old Kingdom's extreme makeover. The most crucial and fascinating step involved dehydrating the body to halt decay. Natron, a naturally occurring salt, was the magic powder of the day, applied both internally and externally. It efficiently sucked the moisture from the remains, like a high-end beauty spa treatment that boasted longevity rather than temporary wrinkle reduction. It almost makes you wonder what those spa ads were like 5,000 years ago. As the sand trickles through the hourglass of our story, we arrive at the moment where artisans performed the task of carefully removing internal organs. Only the heart remained, for the Egyptians believed it was the seat of intelligence and emotion. A rather heavy paperweight for one's soul, you might say. The removed organs, far from being cast aside, were revered. They were placed into canopic jars, each guarded by spirits, to ensure these vital pieces could be reunited with the body come resurrection day. These jars, beautifully sculpted, were perhaps the ancestor of our trusty Tupperware, albeit a tad cooler in design and symbolism. And while we're on the topic of preservation, here's a quirky tidbit. Throughout the world's history, mummies have often been mistaken for medicinal gold mines. In medieval Europe, crushed mummies were bizarrely reputed to be a cure-all. One can only imagine the shock of the ancient Egyptians had they known their immortalization would be reduced to a universal cure in a mortar and pestle. After a month of detoxifying under natron, the body was meticulously cleaned again, this time with the aromatic precision of ancient artisans. Resin, myrrh, and the finest of spices were used, possibly enough to open a deli, or at the very least scent any hallway. Draping the body in resin-coated linens followed, as if enveloping the deceased in protective layers crafted not just for preservation, but as a kind of dressing that whispered of divine fashion. Each layer was a labor of love, believing that these wrappings were vital to the mummified's rebirth. Artisans certainly had their task cut out. Bandaging a mannequin was far easier than the intricate art of swaddling the departed. The body was wrapped with a series of amulets placed strategically amidst the bandages, a practice akin to your modern-day safety gear but imbued with spiritual significance, promising protection and guidance in the great beyond. Historians still argue whether this attention to detail was meant more for piety or display. Were these caregiving rituals genuine or a reflection of the status and wealth of the deceased? As precious time endlessly softens the debate, your imagination wanders back to the images, each artifact and echo of religion speaking, not in questions, but age-old certainties, each layer of linen a whisper chiseling tranquility into the past. As you find yourself enveloped in these layers of history, you're lulled by the story of a civilization that cherished the cycle of life and death, committing to it like one might commit to a favorite novel, revisiting it time and again in each meticulous step. The Egyptians treated death almost as a glorified hiatus, where they could take a scenic view of eternity. No wonder there were no staycation brochures in those days. With every sacred detail, the tomb whispers these rituals, wrapping you in its ancient certainty, its undeniable faith in the continuation of the journey beyond. You're left to ponder what secrets are enfolded in that smallest fold of linen, and as you mentally trace the delicate application of each bandage, you might wonder if your modern-day swaddling can ever match the grace and certainty of these ancient rituals. The air thick with both solemnity and the sweet hints of myrrh, you prepare yourself to step into the next intertwining corridors of Egyptian beliefs, as the next layer of this ancient drama awaits. With the echoes of ancient rituals still lingering in the air, you tread carefully into the fascinating realm of mummification's lesser-known practices and its enigmatic mysteries. The tomb walls loom as silent witnesses to the centuries of debate that have sought to unravel the secrets lying embalmed within. Each step deeper into this shadowed sanctuary reveals whispers of techniques that dance on the edge of mainstream history, often overshadowed by the grand narratives of pharaohs and their elaborate preservation. The practice of mummification, while iconic, wasn't one size fits all, a far cry from the neat caricature often painted in popular culture. Mummification was a process steeped in variability and mystery. Sure, the pharaohs had resources for lavish embalming procedures, but what about the common folk? Historians still riddle themselves with questions over the variety of methods employed across different classes, times, and regions. Variability, it seems, was part and parcel of the process, much like ordering a bespoke outfit. Minus the fitting sessions, of course. One intriguing variant involves the already famous salt of the desert, natron. It turns out this wasn't the only preservation trick up the embalmer's sleeves. Some mummies found appear to have undergone a budget mummification process. These retained a more au naturel approach, simply buried in desert sand where arid conditions would desiccate the body. Mother Nature's own preservation technique. It's like choosing between a spa day at home, courtesy of dry heat, or opting for the luxurious, all-inclusive spa resort version. As debates continue over the specifics of cheaper mummification methods, there's an undeniable artistry in the variations themselves. Some bodies were drenched in resins or bitumen, likely to seal in bodily fluids and stave off decomposition, quite akin to sealing a ship's hull, only less salty and with fewer mermaids. Scholars discuss whether such methods were due to budget constraints, regional ecological factors, or an innovation scaled from the scarcity of natron, again flavouring the debate with a dash of practicality versus necessity. The spectrum of mummification techniques doesn't just stop with humans. Piquing interest is the fascinating case of Egypt's sacred bulls, or Apis bulls, which were not mere temple residents but also received their own unique embalming customs. Distinguished throughout antiquity for their prominent religious significance, these bulls' mummified remains speak to the reverence ancient Egyptians held for these sacred animals. These creatures were often buried in elaborate sarcophagi, encased with a level of care that rivaled even those of aristocrats. Fitting, perhaps, for creatures considered divine manifestations. And here, you thought your pet iguana was spoilt. While exploring the recesses of time, you might bump into one curious outlier in the already peculiar story, the infamous mummy brown paint. This distinctive pigment was concocted from ground remains of mummies and was all the rage among European painters during the Renaissance and beyond. Nothing like a little cadaverous colour to make those portraits pop. It's an unnervingly quirky footnote in history, a tale of limbs stretched from the past to grace the canvases of burgeoning art movements, leaving one to ponder the diverse afterlives our ancient companions have journeyed through. Every preservation method whispers back to us, its echoing tale differing with each technique like chords played in an ancient melody. Some argue that specific methods arose in direct response to evolving religious beliefs. Others propose they're reflections of the resources available in a given era. Historians still argue whether the practices were mere adaptations of available materials, or inquisitive innovations that morphed over time with cultural changes. Each stone of doubt, each wrinkle of intrigue, collectively maps a historical debate board as puzzling as the face of the Sphinx itself. However, it's not just historical perplexities tucked into the layers of mummy wraps. The mummification process itself incites endless fascination, akin to an unassuming present whose wrapping paper teases with what treasure hides beneath. And much like gifts, the intricate details invite endless speculation, inviting you to dive deeper into their stories of life and death, celebration and preservation. The journey through these shadowed labyrinths reveals a seamless blending of art and science, where tendencies of regional practices, economic conditions, and religious beliefs unveil themselves. Burrow further through the varying levels of sophistication and witness the intersection of earthly existence and divine eternity. Whispers of tradition clash with the relentless whispers of modern science that sometimes leave more questions than answers. As you linger within this mosaic of methods and tales, your curiosity chastened and your imagination stirred, the corridors of the unknown stretch before you as another layer of history beckons. Through each winding passage, you find that these ancient mysteries are anything but boring. They thrive in a world where knowledge and belief entwine, urging you onward in the saga that continues to unfold in this tomb of lost secrets. Venturing further through the corridors of antiquity, you're drawn into the opulent allure of treasures buried alongside Egypt's illustrious mummies. These are not just mere trinkets, but rather a carefully curated collection meant to accompany the deceased on their eternal journey. As you step into the dimly lit antechambers, the very air seems to vibrate with the echo of clinking gold and the soft rustle of precious fabrics. A silent symphony of wealth designed for an afterlife of comfort and plenty. Imagine preparing for a trip that lasts an eternity. No less than the most extravagant haul imaginable would suffice. The wealth that accompanied a pharaoh was both an insurance policy for prosperity in the afterlife and a tangible testament to their power and prestige on earth. Glimmering in the soft torchlight are golden masks and bejeweled amulets, each an essential part of the heavenly wardrobe. You could liken it to a celebrity's closet, heavily guarded yet perpetually admired. Each relic within the tomb whispers its own story and purpose. One might spot a life-sized model boat, believe it or not. A tomb equipped with its own version of Uber for the Nile's spirit realm. Amongst intricately crafted statues and ornate jewellery, you'll find a miscellany of goods that range from the sublime to the practical and even the whimsical, all bearing witness to a life laid bare in comprehensive luxury. These priceless artifacts were as spectacular as they were symbolic. A golden scarab amulet carefully nestled within the linen swathing was believed to protect and guide the heart of the deceased during the journey through the underworld. Ornate canopic jars housed vital organs, steadfastly guarded by deities depicted on their lids, every bit as charismatic as modern-day bodyguards. Perhaps the most iconic of all is Tutankhamun's extravagant death mask, crafted from gold and gemstones, which continues to shine as a crown jewel among archaeological discoveries. However, these treasures weren't merely aesthetic. Necessities in the afterlife included an array of items, from beds to board games, painting a picture of a celestial retirement home replete with all imaginable comforts. Indeed, board games were not just entertaining pastimes. Games like Senet, an ancient predecessor of modern time passers, held spiritual significance. Playing Senet wasn't about winning. It was a metaphorical pathway through the afterlife, a sacred tool designed to aid the soul in its divine hurdles. Some rooms bear testament to an ancient fondness for the arts, brimming with musical instruments from lyres to flutes. You can almost hear the echoes of a timeless concert designed to please the ears of gods. In its own curious cadence, this section of the tomb narrative might as well be an episode of Ancient Egypt's Got Talent, featuring choirs of afterlife artisans. An intriguing detail about these tombs is the presence of Shabti dolls, small, often human-like figures meant to act as servants in the next life. More than just decorative tchotchkes, these figures were cast into service with simple incantations, a relief when you don't fancy doing your own otherworldly laundry. Sort of like pre-industrial Roombas covered in hieroglyphs. As the candlelight plays across these precious objects, it underscores an innate irony. While the ancients prepared so ambitiously for their afterlife, they were just as vulnerable to the whims of fate. Tomb raiders, like the original loot ninjas, relentlessly sought these treasures, driven by eyes dazzled by gold and glittering stones, leaving endless tombs plundered over centuries. Debate persists over how much treasure was originally lost to ancient thieves versus what was excavated in more modern times. Tomb robbing was so rampant that it led to the construction of hidden or booby-trapped vaults, as kings played a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek with their wealth. Historians continue to argue whether the lost recoveries equate to a loss of cultural heritage or a wistful imagining of what-if scenarios in Egypt's gilded narrative. Still, the treasures serve to bind the divergent paths of wealth, art, and spirituality in a world where every artifact was a line in the poem of immortality. You can almost feel yourself as one with the tapestry of history as you drink in the profusion of luxurious necessity. These riches, for all their eternal intent, also reflect a society's value in both material prosperity and the timeless chase of human aspiration, a legacy of grandeur seeking to fashion eternity in gold and dreams. Moving forward through these corridors imbued with treasures both real and symbolic, the orchestrated chaos of an entire belief system unfurls around you. Prepare to linger in these hallways a while longer as they beckon you towards even deeper revelations yet to be uncovered. As you delve deeper into the sepulchral shadows, the allure of treasure fades into the backdrop, giving way to a narrative shrouded in eerie mystique, the infamous curse of the Pharaohs. This tale has long haunted the collective imagination, a spectral echo whispering from the tomb's depths as if the very stones could speak tales of misfortune. Here you stand on the precipice of ancient superstition mingling with modern legend, reflecting our abiding fascination with the unknown. The idea of a curse meant to guard the resting pharaoh and their treasures from the intrusion of the living is a story that thrives at the intersection of fact and fiction. It's the kind of yarn that would make campfire stories shy away. Imagine spinning a yarn so spine-tingling even seasoned archaeologists might double knock before entering a burial chamber. In 1922, the discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb by Howard Carter thrust this narrative into the spotlight, when those involved reportedly met with a series of unfortunate events. Cue the dramatic music because, like any good dramedy, opinions diverge on the authenticity of these curses. To be honest, ancient Egyptians did inscribe protective spells and curses deliberately to thwart would-be tomb raiders, like signage of eternal no trespassing. Yet most of these are identified as more symbolic than diabolically potent, a deterrent for the superstitious perhaps, but not much more onerous than a firm, weighty, baleful fichet from the stone-cold pharaoh guarding their own eternal peace. The tragic, untimely deaths of some who violated Tutankhamun's chambers added fuel to the supernatural fire. Lord Carnarvon, the expedition's financier, famously died shortly after the tomb's opening, of an infected mosquito bite no less. Talk about an original and fatal fly-in-the-ointment situation. Journalists of the day latched onto this coincidence with relish, writing dramatic accounts fused with exoticized mystique, and Tut fever coursed through the veins of the public. When it comes to whether King Tut was just spectacularly unlucky or harnessed a violent vendetta from beyond, historians and scientists still debate. Maybe it was the curse. Maybe it was the questionable hygiene practices of the early 20th century. Historians continue to engage in lively discourse on whether these alpha narratives were fueled by science, coincidence, or sheer human artistry in setting a scene. Some modern findings shed new light, suggesting these curses might have mundane origins. Many tombs were, after all, sealed for millennia, trapping whatever germs, spores, or toxins that might have developed within. Imagine, if you will, encountering a mold problem that had been simmering for thousands of years, an eminent health hazard turned ancient boogeyman. Whatever the case, the narrative proved too captivating to let go, and the curse has remained a staple of mummy lore ever since, garnering attention not just from archaeologists, but from cultural enthusiasts ready to conjure a good yarn over tea. Yet beyond this labyrinth of pharaoh-cracking curses lies deeper reflection on how cultures perceive life, death, and the ethics of historical intrusion. This is the broader conversation, isn't it? Whether walking through a museum or stooping inquisitively over a newly discovered relic, the past beckons us to proceed with respect and keen curiosity, evoking a deeply human sentiment. Despite the scientific unraveling of these mysteries, they continue to fascinate us, casting an enigmatic shadow over the intertwining paths of history and legend. As you seek solace in the ancient calm of the tomb, stillness enfolds you like the residual memories of whispered spells. Here, amid lingering shadows of superstition, treasure, and ancient pride, the past envelops its confidences tightly, unwilling to fully yield its mysteries to the mundane light of modern skepticism. With a cautious but inquisitive spirit, you gather these juxtapositions of story and reality. Amid the quiet stone corridors, heavy with legend and ripe with discovery, you advance toward the archaeological truth and the legion of artistic interpretations yet to come. These tombs are not merely sanctuaries of the past, but canvases of the imagination, calling you forward to the next unraveling of ancient paradoxes. Stepping out from the shadowy grasp of legend and curses, you find yourself standing in testament to the hands that wrought these ancient wonders, the unsung artisans and builders of the great pyramids and tombs. Imagine for a moment the symphony of activity that once clamoured here, the clang of copper tools against stone, the rhythmic chants of workers, and the collective hum of a society devoted to crafting one of history's greatest architectural achievements. Far removed from the throne, yet part of its eternal legacy, the pyramid builders were labourers, artisans, engineers and planners, whose ingenuity and skill laid the literal foundations of immortality for the pharaohs. While the reigning kings and queens enjoyed the limelight, it was these workers who shouldered the grit and grandeur of pyramid construction. Their toil is a story embedded within the very blocks they meticulously cut, carved and aligned, each keystone as much a testament to their perseverance as to the pharaoh's might. While popular mythologies often suggest slaves toiled against their will, historians generally agree that these builders were skilled labourers, compensated for their work and maintained within bustling communities near the construction sites. Recent archaeological discoveries have unveiled their lives, revealing camps that were remarkably organised. Think of them, if you will, as the original pioneers of employee housing, complete with communal bakeries and breweries. The Egyptians knew how to keep spirits up, after all. The builders often lived in well-structured settlements, established to feed, house and care for the massive workforce. Beer and bread formed essential staples of their diet, not unlike the modern construction workers' devotion to sandwich shops and coffee. But seriously, each loaf of bread and mug of beer was part of a functional economy that kept this ancient workforce productive. In these communities, camaraderie matched the discipline, creating a microcosm of Egyptian society, where an artisan's command of craft stood in testimony to the pervasive sense of duty to cultural and spiritual beliefs. Members of higher spheres, the master builders, and lower rungs, all had their role, their place, cloth among a shared legacy quilt. Even more fascinating are the hieroglyphics and graffiti that workers left behind, carved into the stone where no prying pharaoh's eyes might inspect. Labourers sometimes left names and humorous captions as cheeky evidence of their lives, an ancient precursor to splashing the bathroom stool with "Bob was here." If walls could talk, you'd have ancient tales of camaraderie, gratitude, and the occasional snide remark aimed at an overseer. Nimbly manoeuvring massive blocks of stone, the methods by which workers achieved such feats with limited technology remain a subject of both awe and debate. Theories abound, from the use of sloping sand ramps to complex pulley systems. Historians still argue how ingenious innovation or brute force, or an industrious mix of both, can explain such tremendous accomplishments. Regardless, the end result was architectural poetry in motion, an inspiring fusion of artistry and engineering. You might find yourself marvelling at functional details, tongue and groove techniques that permitted staggering stones snugly fitted together with precision, like nature's jigsaw puzzle. Such nuances allowed for strength and stabilization, withstanding centuries of both weather and history with pharaonic aplomb. These builders, perhaps unsung in their lifetime, live on as vital cogs in the historic machinations that resulted in a legacy of monuments, complex burial chambers, and enigmatic hieroglyph-laden walls. Theirs was craftsmanship of both reverence and defiance, reaching beyond the confines of mortality, bridging time through exquisite stonework that has stood the test of millennia. At dusk, temple shadows lengthen, dancing over once bustling workspaces now laid to rest, but forever echoing with the prideful labour of ancient hands. As you travel further through this tableau of endeavour, each dusty corridor and every block fitted just so reveals that the monumental undertaking of pyramid construction was not solely the purview of the ruling elite, but a communal gift from one generation to the indefinite tapestry of the future. These stones are scripture, celebrating both the revered pharaohs at their hearts and the workers' subtle legacies, an eternal narrative sung by the stones themselves. You stop to brush your hand against the cool solid stone of the pyramid, an action so resolute and reassuring that you feel an immediate bond with history's artisans. It's in the touch of stone that inspiration, sweat, hope and faith converge, whispering those ancient secrets back to any willing to listen. As you continue your journey, the tableau of life and art beckon your curiosity further forward. As you delve further into the ancient corridors, the silent hieroglyphs etched into the stone walls begin to reveal their stories. Words and symbols carved with purpose, a frozen dialogue between worlds. These hieroglyphs, the enigmatic script of the ancient Egyptians, are not merely decorative. They are the voice of a civilization that spoke through the stone and into eternity. The coolness of the stone under your fingers is akin to touching history itself, feeling the chisel's echo from centuries past. Hieroglyphs were the bustling lifeline of ancient Egyptian communication. Despite their static nature, they brim with life, each symbol alive with meaning, offering secrets that once only high priests and scribes could unravel. These inscriptions could tell you everything from mundane daily occurrences to epic tales of gods and pharaohs. In many ways, they functioned as both newspaper and holy script, chronicling life while stitching together divine narratives. Under the flickering glow of torchlight illuminating this intricate stonework, the complexity of this written language becomes apparent. Comprised of hundreds of distinct symbols, hieroglyphs were built in layers, like an elaborate puzzle, where each symbol held multitudes of meaning, depending on its context. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians intended for these scripts to be read straightforwardly or as a visual poem meant to be experienced as impressionistic art. Perhaps it's a spirited medley of both. Scribes, the perennial gatekeepers of this knowledge, were revered figures, second only to the priesthood in terms of their societal stature. Far from just scribbling down accounts, they were the original artists and storytellers, weaving the words of power and prosem enough to fill an ancient literary epic. These individuals were often depicted with the same intellectual reverence we confer on today's celebrated authors. After all, to them, writing wasn't just a tool, it was a sacred invention. Walking alongside these intricate carvings, your shadow merges with that of the long-departed who once brought hammer to chisel. You marvel at how they coupled deft artistic gradients with bull-headed mastery of stonework, crafting something both profound and eternal. They left texts that immortalized the pharaoh's deeds, depicted religious rites, and articulated cosmic order, a guided tour for the spirit navigating the afterlife's complex labyrinth. Now this might surprise you, a quirky tidbit swept in layers of dust and time, but several hieroglyphic phrases provide explicit instructions for the deceased to enjoy earthly pleasures in the afterlife. Imagine a cosmic voucher, authorizing you to kick back and live it up in eternity, no strings attached. Bread and beer flow freely, a spiritual pub with a never-ending tab paid once in earthly currency, but forever rewarded in divine indulgence. However, deciphering these celestial punchlines didn't happen overnight. The language of hieroglyphs was a lost art until the early 19th century, when the Rosetta Stone offered the linguistic key to unlocking its mysteries. Its discovery was something akin to cracking an ancient code, allowing scholars to muddle through millennia of dusted-off knowledge, layer by mysterious layer, like peeling back the secrets of a long-locked diary. Even now, Egyptologists sometimes squabble over interpretations. Subtle nuances and intertwined meanings mean there's always a new way to consider the existing text, each interpretable phrase sparking debate about its true meaning and intent. Was it just a hint of graffiti-esque humour? Or did those shadows in the walls intend to convey something far more profound? Regardless of the underlying motifs, hieroglyphs also fulfill artistic roles, gracing the walls with visually striking images like the ancient world's own stained glass windows. They do more than record history. They transform these passages into sanctuaries of art and mythical metaphors made stone solid, echoing the familiar world into the mythology of eternity. You linger in this echoed embrace of time, bespeaking every crack and hue with an understanding that transcends naked eye comprehension. Hieroglyphs unfold tales of gods descending to walk among humans, tales of great victories, and even simple recipes detailing bread and beer, all intertwined in a tapestry that leaves you rapt. These carvings breathe life into corridors, whispers of an ancient culture that once thrived in the sun-drenched shadows of the Nile. These visual scriptures await their own quiet moment of reflection, offering you not just stories of old, but an ongoing dialogue with time itself, an undying trace of humanity's unyielding quest to immortalize knowledge, myth, and dreams. With each step down these ancient halls, guided by glyphs that light your path, you find yourself deeper within history's embrace, ready to savor the next untold secrets waiting beyond. As you leave the vivid stories of hieroglyphs behind, your journey pulls you irresistibly toward a figure who looms large in the shadows and psyche of ancient Egypt. Anubis, the jackal-headed god of mummification and the afterlife. Here stands a deity both feared and revered, maintaining the delicate balance between life and death, with a presence that intertwines mystery with solemn duty. With a regal form that combines man's body and jackal's head, Anubis sits poised amid the ancient landscape like a sentinel of passage. Picture yourself surrounded by the twilight haze of an old Egyptian sunset, the vast desert stretching indefinitely in golden waves behind the gathering shadow of pyramids where Anubis is frequently depicted. As his gaze peers forward, it's as though he's sizing up eternity itself. Unlike some deities whose legends drift into abstraction, Anubis comes across as palpably grounded, a deity with a job description as precise as that of any modern mortician, albeit one with a celestial touch. Responsible for guiding souls through the weighty corridors of death to judgment in the Hall of Ma'at, where hearts were weighed against a feather, Anubis's role occupied a central, if daunting, aspect of Egyptian spiritual beliefs. Imagine a scene that could be lifted almost directly from an existential movie plot. Souls in queue, awaiting pivotal judgment under Anubis's steadfast purview, as calm and unyielding as your most dedicated public servant on reception duty. Yet more than just a ferryman of souls, Anubis was intimately involved in mummification, his moulded jackal visage appearing in countless tombs and necropolises, shadowy but ever watchful. Among these spectral corridors, gaze upon depictions of Anubis deftly conducting or overseeing the embalming process, providing the ultimate sign-off with a hieratic nod and a jackal's enigmatic smile. An interesting quirk about Anubis is his frequent anthropomorphic appearances, where ancient artisans often gifted him with human traits. His depictions span solemn rites and artistic liberties, from the stern guardian of tombs to occasionally sporting an expression seeming almost amused, like he's on the verge of sharing a cosmic joke. A reminder that the gods might not be above a little humour themselves. A role model to all multitaskers, Anubis was frequently cast as a steward, ensuring safe passage for royalty, pharaohs most prominently, through tomb shadows to the divine realms beyond. The pharaohs believed that power walked hand in hand with the gods, and essentially Anubis served as a celestial travel agent, ensuring the arrangements went off without a hitch. Though the pharaohs hardly carried passports on this journey, knowing Anubis had their backs was reassurance enough. Historians still argue about the evolution of Anubis's role across Egyptian history, and how it transitioned with shifts in religious paradigms, not least his eventual supplanting by Osiris in the grand hierarchy of the afterlife. Was his demotion a political move, or simply another evolution in the complex interplay of gods? Such debates highlight how strongly Egyptian theology reflected the political landscape, morphing in response to cultural and dynastic whims. Leather-clad Andrew Lloyd Webber may have written quite a different Phantom of the Opera had he drawn tale inspirations from these layered and artfully woven shadows of Egyptian myth. Indeed, one might humorously envision Anubis trading his jackal mask for a phantom's, sneaking off to his dressing room before a new night shift in the metaphysical play of the afterlife judgment. Whether enshrined benevolently on a sarcophagus lid or an inset mural indirectly hinting at his celestial confrontations, the image of Anubis provides a unique peek, not just into ancient beliefs, but broader interpretations of life, putting both the solemn and the satirical under a cultural lens. As you tread the ancient stone pathways, shadows stretching long under torchlight, the walls festooned with testament to Anubis's once pivotal place in the containment of death, flicker softly against narratives of eternity. You find yourself pondering deeply, line by chiseled line, the inherent timelessness, interwoven with human attempts to make sense of mortality. For you, intrepid traveller through dusty hallways of myth and reality, the figure of Anubis remains as he has existed for ages, a guardian to the past and the custodian of mortal longing for transcendence. The visual storytelling surrounding him inspires a quiet reflection, as the intricacies of the Egyptian netherworld echo through to your core. Through this manifold journey, an ageless seam of reverent myth intertwined around each step solidifies Anubis's profound essence within the story that continues to unfurl, page by engaging page. As you journey forth from the realm of deities and divine duties, a strange chapter in the story of Egyptian mummies awaits. A period when the fascination with these ancient wonders took an odd twist, morphing into one of history's most peculiar cultural pastimes. The Victorian era's veritable obsession with Egyptian artifacts, particularly the infamous mummy unwrapping parties. Imagine, if you will, a society so enthused by the allure of Egyptology that it transformed the sanctified rituals of the ancient world into a spectacle of aristocratic curiosity. The 19th century was a time of great exploration and discovery, with mummies high on the list of curios eagerly imported into England and beyond, igniting a trend that mixed academic curiosity with high society's unabashed pageantry. High society balls were passé. If you wanted to capture the public's imagination, a mummy unwrapping was just the ticket. Talk about a gathering where the stakes were wrapped up tighter than your Aunt Edna's mystery meatloaf recipe. Picture an elegant drawing room, tastefully furnished with all the trappings of Victorian grace, lush drapes, intricate woodwork, and the essential centerpiece. A mummy, poised for unwrapping like a prehistoric gift in the ritual dissection of the past. Curious eyes would gather, guests sipping their brandy as they prepared to peel away at centuries-old linens to reveal the desiccated figure beneath. Not quite their usual parlour entertainment, but what's life without a dash of mummified mystery on a Thursday night? Such gatherings, often hosted by learned men of science to a willing audience, had an air about them that invited a mix of scholarly interest and social spectacle, an intersection of the macabre and the magnificent. Scholars and explorers, who bore tantalizing stories from Egypt's desert cradles, often narrated these events. Beneath their civilized veneers, though, you can imagine whispers circulating about curses and misfortune, because even the English gentry revel in a good ghost story. In a humorous turn, there was always an unintended twist of irony. Enthusiasts who so desperately sought to assuage Amun-Ra's remnants of mystery sometimes fell upon the morbid realization that what lay within may have been more pedestrian than anticipated. It turns out not every mummy was guaranteed to have hallmarks akin to Tutankhamun. Amid the suspenseful reruns of wrappings, participants might end up revealing mediocre antiquities or, for those exceedingly unlucky, mummified cats. Let's be honest, not quite the return on investment they were hoping for. Adding flavour to this patchwork of misadventure is a quirky tidbit of these events. A fascinating, albeit uncomfortable, context. Mummies, both regal and otherwise, had been used for not just study but widespread industry. Pulverized mummy remains were ground into powder and used in medicine. Believed to hold curative Sci-Fi byproducts, dodgy herbalists mixed it with oils, peddling everything from rheumatism cures to potions for youthful skin, thereby unleashing unwitting pharaohs onto Europe's complexion care routines. Who knew ancient seers could moonlight as posthumous wellness coaches? Historians continue to probe the complex relationships reflected in these events. Were they a strange celebration of enlightenment, or rather an exploitative fad among the privileged? The ethical implications continue to inspire debate, tugging between a genuine marvel at Egypt's rich legacy and a rather old-world blend of imperialism entwined with eccentricity. Yet even as these odd party tales spilled across parlours, they also piqued a resurgence of genuine archaeological interest, mobilizing exhaustive studies that unearthed treasures beyond mere material objects. Cultural treasures that began deciphering lifeways of ancient Egyptian societies and recognized complex social layers informing life and death. Returning from the highlights of this historical pastime, You sense how those moments of misguided fascination cast reflective light on modern reflections. Sifting through echoes and ghostly laughter, you uncover fresh perspectives on the complex crossroads of reverence, wonder, and assuredly bizarre attempts to immortalize distant stars in a cosmos both vast and blurring. A contemplation truly meant for a lifetime. From fleeting fads to timeless mysteries, the mummy's journey has led you through myriad temporal layers, steadily unraveling more than just linens, but stories woven into the very essence of humanity's curiosity. As these tales echo around you, the silent, regal mummies remain both subjects of speculation and symbols of enduring allure. An evocative reminder that no matter how closely we look, time's secrets continue to keep just a step ahead of discovery. With the peculiar image of Victorian parlour antics still fresh in your mind, consider how the fascination with mummies transcended borders and enigmatic epochs to captivate cultures across the globe. Although Egypt forged the most iconic image of mummification, other civilizations did indeed engage in similar practices, drawing intriguing parallels and contrasts with the Egyptian methods. It's like discovering your favorite book had a multitude of sequels in different languages, each with its twist on a shared theme. Take a moment to step into the deserts of Chile, where the Chinchorro people were mastering the art of mummification thousands of years before the Egyptians. Their method involved delicately removing the skin and organs before reinforcing the skeleton with sticks, stuffing it with plant material, and covering it with a clay mask. It's a procedure that feels halfway between taxidermy and artisanal craft. These early mummification techniques were used not for pharaohs, but for everyday members of their society, democratic in a way that ancient Egypt never aspired to be. In Peru, the ancient Inca accustomed themselves to mummify their nobility, seated in a fetal position and wrapped in textiles, often with offerings intended to ease their journey into the afterlife. These revered ancestors remained part of the community, sometimes brought out for consultation in matters believed to require their counsel. An unequivocal perk offering a lifetime warranty on their sagacity. Imagine family gatherings featuring your great-great-great-grandparent holding court over household decisions. What a conversation starter. The mummies of the Canary Islands present yet another twist in the tapestry. Originating from the Guanche culture, these mummies were meticulously prepared and wrapped, but the exact methods remain shadowed in mystery due to scant documentary evidence. The rugged island terrain later gifted them to the ripples of the Atlantic, preserving their enigma amid echoes of ocean waves. From Europe, the Otzi the Iceman offers us an unintentional mummy preserved naturally within glacial tombs. Discovered in the Alps, Otzi lived over 5,000 years ago, immortalized involuntarily via elemental frost rather than human intention. His accidental preservation remains a glacial biography, offering knowledge about ancient Europeans' life, diet, and health, even so far as revealing the style of prehistoric tattoos. Though not mummified by design, Otzi holds a place of reverence among mummy folklore, stars in his own enduring drama of anthropology. Historians continue to argue about the origins of mummification practices worldwide. Did different cultures independently devise these methods? Or were they culturally exchanged along ancient trade routes, whispers of cultural dialogue woven into the desert winds? The blurred lines between those trading hands of history create tantalizing connections, hints that what we undertake in preserving memory and legacy is a universally shared endeavor. Even today, mummies appear across pop culture media, not merely adopted from Egyptian lore, but branched from a multicultural influence. Films, video games, and literature have cemented the mummy mythos into a realm where intertwined narratives embody an amalgam of dread, mystery, and adventure. These cultural bookmarks indicate a century-spanning curiosity that refuses to be interred. In modern science, mummy research also acts as a bridge between ancient and contemporary worlds, facilitating cross-disciplinary exploration where archaeology, forensics, and history coalesce. Their silent existence continues to offer insights with each careful unwrapping, millennia peeling away to reveal threads of continuity in the human experience. And as you stand amongst the remnants of these multifaceted traditions, from pyramid cities to windswept Andean peaks, the broad narrative of mummification presents itself not as a solitary pursuit, but as a network of humanity's quest for continuity, memorials to beliefs entrenched deeply within the societies that shaped them. Gazing across centuries, you see that mummification was less about preservation than it was about remembrance, a way of recognizing life's profound impact beyond the ephemeral span of years. This cross-cultural embrace into the mummified world suggests that mankind, through varied expressions and techniques, engaged intimately with the mysteries of life and death. From elaborate rituals to the happenstance moments of icy entombment, humanity's shared past reverberates with questions yet unasked, enriching the evolving story of our entwined existence as you move toward each forthcoming echo on your journey through time's labyrinth. As you traverse the silent halls laden with ancient wisdom, your journey carries you to a profound aspect of Egyptian spirituality, the soul's journey through the afterlife, as envisioned by those who inhabited the Nile's fertile banks. In the softly illuminated walls, art and hieroglyphs depict this epic voyage, a narrative that speaks of divine encounters, celestial gates and trials that test the soul's worthiness. What awaits is a tale both enchanting and introspective, a mythological map charting humanity's most introspective odyssey. The Egyptians envisioned the afterlife as a continuation of one's earthly existence, proposing a journey that echoes life's own trials and triumphs. Far from a passive paradise, the voyage was an intricate path toward a perfected existence in the field of reeds, a heavenly realm where souls could enjoy their ideal lives, unfettered by earthly constraints. Brace yourself. There's no couch potato afterlife in Egyptian lore. But before reaching this idyllic expanse, the dead had to navigate the treacherous passage through the Duat, a netherworld teeming with realms of danger, judgment, and metamorphosis. Here, shadows and starlight mingle, creating a dreamscape fraught with challenges designed to test the purity and resilience of the Ka, or life force. This celestial obstacle course was no mere series of trials, but a multi-dimensional narrative, etched in guided rituals, one you might compare to a reboot of a grand cross-continental adventure with the universe as the grand game master. At the heart of these trials lay the famed Hall of Ma'at, where Anubis weighed the dead's heart against the feather of truth. It was an ultimate reckoning, a time to account for one's earthly deeds. Should your heart prove true and light, off to the field of reeds you'd go. If burdened with guilt, however, one faced the devouring maw of Ammit, a fearsome creature with the head of a crocodile, body of a lion, and hindquarters of a hippopotamus, making it the ultimate in recycling organic material. In this divine recount, the Book of the Dead served as a trusty guide, like a passport loaded with incantations and spells intended to aid in overcoming these otherworldly trials. More than a tome of necromancy, it offered the spiritual acumen needed to maneuver waters teeming with serpents and celestial captures. Thumbnail sketches of gods meant to ensure the deceased held the divine credentials for their journey. This guide was frequently illustrated in lurid detail upon the walls of tombs, and even wrapped within the linen bandages of the deceased. Imagine, if you will, ascending the celestial highway, furnished with a map more comprehensive than tourist-infused Lonely Planet guides, poised to banish cosmic inconveniences with a flick of protective spell or incantation. However, not every journey was hyperbolic heroism. For the ancient Egyptians, the afterlife was equally an embodiment of the static natural, blissful toils under vibrant skies in fields ever fruitful. Historians still argue whether this envisioned paradise echoes earthly aspirations, a just universe offering harmony and an end to temporal struggles, or reflections of what was deemed good and wholesome by society at the time. Did humanity aim to create paradise as a moral reflection? Or was this just another aspiration, writ into the divine script? Intriguingly, the possibilities for the afterlife were not entirely fixed. Personal tombs, family status, and the generation you belonged to could influence how your soul's journey materialized. Accessorizing to spiritual prosperity meant customizable experiences in the afterlife. Imagine throwing a housewarming party for eternity, followed by a never-ending cavalcade of self-imagined bliss. The Egyptians truly embraced the concept that a well-prepared departure paved the way for celestial success. As you walk among these carvings and crafted sculptures, the eternal narrative unfolds in majestic rhythm, with timeless tales murmuring into the vastness of your own reflections. Flickering torches illuminate shadowy gods and mythological panoramas, intoning myths where vision and belief wove tapestries of terrain reserved for both the cross-trails and crossroads of cosmic action. The allure of the Egyptians' journey in the afterlife extends its voice, even now, to those who would listen. It inspires humanity to ponder the intersection of faith, ethics, life, and what lies beyond. In its intricacy and artistry, each chamber echoes the ancient voices speaking of lives lived with renewed focus, where eternity held no darkness, only another sunrise. As your footsteps follow these tales from one corridor to the next, you sense an understanding that transcends any cultural blockade. Herein lies a story not solely confined to age-old myths, but a universal narrative. The soul's exploration, and what awaits all who tread life's path with a heart light with truth. Step in rhythm with the past as you lean into the unfolding chapters of their ongoing celestial quest. In the soft, shadow-dappled corridors of ancient tombs, it wasn't only the revered kings and queens who found passage into eternal life. The ancient Egyptians' deep affinity for the animal kingdom is etched into these sacred spaces, where mummified animals accompany their human counterparts. A testament to an intertwining belief system that extended the promise of a protected afterlife to their cherished creatures. Step softly here, for you tread among an extraordinary menagerie of mummified life, where tails, wings, and paws intertwine with humanity's quest for eternity. You might imagine the tombs bustling with spirits, both human and animal, creating an eternal Noah's Ark hidden beneath layers of sand. Cats, birds, and other creatures maintained more than just company for the living. They were the animate threads woven into the spiritual tapestry of life and death. Cats, worshipped as manifestations of the goddess Bastet, enjoyed a particularly esteemed status. Their lithe forms often found nestled beside the sphinxes and deities, adorning the pharaohs' final resting places. It's as if cat memes, seemingly ageless, have presided over human attention since antiquity, a cosmic tale of felines settling comfortably into human laps and lore. The strong bond Egyptians shared with their animal gods was perpetuated through elaborate rituals around animal mummification. From small pets to stout bulls, animals were prepared with careful artistry, their wrappings decorated with the same rites afforded to humans, implying that they too harbored souls worthy of divine consideration. The exceptional Apis bulls, related to the god Ptah, were buried in grand ceremonial style, commanding their own necropolis, confirming from burial procedures that it was indeed delightful to be bullish in both life and, paradoxically, in afterlife. A quirky feather in the cap of this menagerie is a tale of the sacred ibis. Featuring prominently in Egyptian lore, the ibis, representing Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing, transcends the physical into the conceptual, ushering a belief where words transform into avian flight. Hence, across tomb walls, mummified ibises bravely march forth, a testament to the written words soaring into celestial archives. Birds flits across the afterlife's other skies, confirming that a good story, and a faithful scribe, never truly fades. An eccentric anecdote nestles among these traditions. Mummified crocodiles line tombs in homage to the god Sobek. Remarkably, some were found with baby crocs preserved inside their mouths, the ancient Egyptian equivalent of a Russian nesting doll, demonstrating the baffling wonder of both fanfare and fright all rolled into one. Historians continue their animated debates regarding whether the mass production of animal mummies served religious dedication or more commercial purposes. Was it authentic? Or was there a bit of ancient logistics involved in the production lines, with demand outpacing the actual supply of divine-worthy creatures? Supply chain theories toy with the question, playfully nudging at the intersection of spirituality and economics in ancient Egypt. These mummified animals transcend mere relics, whispering tales of an ancient world that cherished spiritual unity with the animate realm. Beyond tombs, animal spirits travelled side by side with humans on their otherworldly journeys, an intimate acknowledgement of connection and coexistence within a shared cosmic sphere. The interplay of flesh, fur, spirit, and belief draws a mythology where life recognizes divine participation in every living being. Enthralled by this intricate community of animal preservation, your gaze catches glimpses of sleek forms and avian silhouettes caught mid-flight within the sandstone. It inspires contemplations of consideration beyond species, recognizing life's inherent kinship to spiritual devotion. where harmonious coexistence echoes wider tales of reverence. Here, within this sepulchral menagerie, you're entirely enveloped in a story packed not only with mystery, but a boundless affection for a harmonious, spiritual universe shared between all beings. These narrow passageways resound with harmonious whispers that bridge the human and animal experience, a dialogue where stone and spirit alike convey a timeless homage to companions and gods. With each step, reverberating resonance echoes through your senses, evoking a pervasive understanding that the lines between man and beast wove together long ago into a mythological tale infused with life, love, and loyalty. As your journey winds onwards, carrying forth both dark shadows and the celestial friend, your heart is soothed, knowing both man and beast walk together into the sunlit embrace of eternity. Drawing deeper into the labyrinth of time, your path aligns with moments of thrilling discovery, where modern archaeology converges with the timeless enigma of Egyptian mummies. This fascinating arena is alive with the echoes of recent revelations and whispers of the unknown waiting to be unearthed. The sands of Egypt have long served as both guardian and storyteller, and with each breeze that reshapes them, another chapter of history appears ready to unveil its secrets. Imagine the slight tremor of excitement as spades cut through layers of time, dust billowing to reveal artifacts untouched for millennia. Recent archaeological discoveries continue to contribute vibrant pages to the vast tome of Egyptology, rewriting narratives, enhancing knowledge, and offering unexpected glimpses into the ancient world. It's as if history itself is whispering its tales, enticing explorers to dig ever deeper. One such discovery reshaping our understanding is the uncovering of entire burial complexes outside traditional hotspots, such as Luxor and the Valley of the Kings. It's like finding a forgotten library of ancient Egypt, where ordinary lives, not just royal personages, are of notable interest. These discoveries help demystify the broader spectrum of life, communities, and individuals who existed under and alongside their divine rulers. Modern technology now allies with traditional methods as archaeologists employ drones, ground-penetrating radar, and digital modeling. These technologies act as modern-day magic mirrors, revealing hidden chambers and secret passages without disrupting delicate environments. A far cry from the unbridled expeditions of the past. Through such innovations, the sands part effortlessly, as if complicit in the weaving of history, stirring up new questions and elucidating old myths. A particularly stunning revelation came with the discovery of the Golden City near Luxor, an almost fully preserved urban settlement from the reign of Amenhotep III. Dubbed the Rise of Aten, this city offers a breathtaking peek into ancient urban planning, social hierarchy, and daily life, alongside insights into how ordinary Egyptians lived. A narrative unfolding in real time, piece by piece, as the city continues to emerge from its sandy crypt. These finds sparked lively debates among historians and archaeology communities, who were enchanted, yet challenged by the burgeoning details. Who exactly controlled the city? What were the daily activities of its citizens? How did these people interact with their environment and the adjacent royalty? Perhaps it is the enigmatic nature of these initial discoveries that keeps scholars eagerly glued to ongoing developments, as if reading a particularly captivating thriller where the pages write themselves. The Lost Labyrinth, a once elusive mortuary temple of Pharaoh Amenhotep III, tantalizes imaginations with stories of cavernous halls filled with historic treasures, both ordinary and divine. Scientists are only beginning to peel back these layers of ancient strategies, cult and state, pivotally dancing through calligraphy and shadows, rescuing memories, often presumed lost to time. And let us not overlook the compelling strides in understanding the mummification process itself. Recent research utilizing advanced technologies such as CT scans and DNA analysis has provided unprecedented insights into the health, diet, and even familial lineage of the deceased. It's like a posthumous medical history meets Ancestry.com, delivered with a 5,000-year delay, unveiling storied biographies hidden beneath linen wrappings. In your journey alongside these revelations, you can almost feel the flutter of papyrus pages as history herself lays bare with newfound clarity. From elaborate tomb frescoes and hieroglyphic verses, from workshops bustling with artistic mastery to mundane wine jars and throne fragments, it's a kaleidoscopic glimpse into a civilization's story, one that continues to be redefined by each new find. Your imagination can't help but ignite around these tales repainting what it meant to live and thrive along the Nile. As the modern tools refine the focus, honouring the ancient rhythms and voices, it's clear that each discovery isn't merely about uncovering relics, but about connecting humanity across boundaries both temporal and cultural. With each new artifact or whisper bounded by desert sands, the past becomes a little more present, a little more understood, and ever more poignant. As you press on through this ongoing saga, the interplay of past and present beckons, humbly acknowledging that what has been found might hold but a glimmer of that which remains waiting, ever patient, ever ancient, beneath the eternal sands of Egypt. As the desert breeze brushes against your skin, conjuring images of ancient pursuits, you find your path leading through a mosaic of intrigue and audacity, the tale of tomb robbers and the whispered secrets of lost treasures. In this clandestine dance through time, history meets heist, in a narrative as entrancing as it is enigmatic. Amidst the haunting echoes of plundered sarcophagi and vanished riches, you begin to grasp the scope of a timeless conflict between preservation and greed. Imagine the nocturnal silence of the desert, broken only by the occasional susurras of sand slipping through fingers, as shadows move stealthily toward their hidden prize. Tomb robbers, driven by the dual allure of treasure and adventure, dared to breach the sacred walls crafted to shield the departed for eternity. The theft of these ancient vaults forms a thriller worthy of cinema. Raiders cloaked in darkness, making off with artifacts destined for barter and exchange. The treasures long held sacred became grains in the hourglass of history's darker chapters. Ancient Egyptians were acutely aware of these would-be grave plunderers, prompting elaborate measures in architecture and inscription to deter such transgressions. Ingenious traps, concealed chambers, and labyrinthine passageways were employed with fervour, as if the builders channeled their inner Indiana Jones in a battle to safeguard their sovereign souls' journeys. Yet for many pharaohs, measures like these, however meticulous, weren't enough. Evidence of looted tombs, from the jumbled chaos of contents to hastily sealed entrances, testifies to both the tenacity of those who sought to claim their own earthly afterlives from the afterlife itself. Historians still hotly debate the extent to which royal tombs fell victim to smugglers versus organised state reclamation efforts in subsequent dynasties. Were the confiscations acts of high treason, or royal recycling initiatives, retaking treasures assimilated by steady generations of priests and pharaohs themselves? Some stories suggest that royal successors adopted the spoils of predecessors, preserving Egyptological legacies more tightly wound in familial politics than we might expect. Beyond ancient heists, curiosity compels us to the modern era, where tomb raids continue to beguile and befuddle both the academic world and cultural patrons. Archaeologists stumble upon hidden caches and sometimes unsettle artifacts mixed inexplicably into new burrows. This suggests ancient thieves mastered their craft, clandestinely moving beyond torchlight toward astute presses of sand-shonnered trails, spectres overshadowing the modern-day quests to reclaim and rightfully restore cultural heritage. On this tapestry of protagonists emerge figures like Howard Carter, nestled within their own conquests of discovery. Fueled by tales of intrepid explorers, the 19th and early 20th centuries experienced fervent Egyptomania, where renewed zeal recovered, and sometimes obscured, stories set adrift by centuries of neglect. Yet for every glorious find, such as the untouched splendour of Tutankhamun's tomb, countless others remained or remain disturbed. Absences written as sighs along desert winds, under moonlit masks. A sentence of loss awaiting rewrite. While progress strides forth in conservation and restitution, enlightened reflection weighs heavily on the ethical quandaries surrounding not only past transgressions, but also cultural recovery efforts. Who truly holds the mantle of ownership in such a shared past? And could the sand-shrouded vaults still harbour undiscovered gold? Truths cemented in defiant silence that eluded all seekers? These tangled stories of loot and longing are more than just tales of daring escapades. They're reflections of how possessions, sacred treasures or petty trinkets alike, hold power over millennia, encapsulating motives, minds, mystery, and human nature's unerring dance between reverence and rapacity. They evoke universal introspection, a contemplative pause on both legacy and longing, Guided by the echoes of broken seals and whispered legends of hidden wealth, your journey continues steadfast, aware that every layer of sand brushed aside resurrects the delicate interplay of temptation and transcendence. In these hidden places, where treasure once lay, forgotten histories await their next whisper upon the desert wind. You tread carefully, knowing the path ahead remains rife with shadowed hallways and paths yet to see the light. Where absence and presence thread chronicles yet to be told, ever elusive within the sand's eternal embrace. As you navigate further into the history-soaked corridors of ancient Egypt, a nuanced layer of the mummification process reveals itself, a perspective so often hidden beneath the wrappings. This is the intriguing exploration of how gender intricately influenced the rites of mummification, highlighting the societal roles and beliefs embedded in the dry sands. Here you find yourself opening a chapter as richly woven as the bandages themselves, ripe with revelations about how the men and women of Egypt met the afterlife on distinctly styled terms. In the dim alcoves of the embalmer's workshop, the whir of methodical preparation follows the souls bound for eternity. Each detail is meticulously planned, often bearing subtle distinctions that varied according to gender. Historians continue to debate whether these differences reflected strict religious doctrines or were fluid, adapting over time to shifting social paradigms. What remains clear is that gender considerations were thoughtfully encoded into everything from the accoutrements of burial to the esoteric inscriptions hidden within. For men, the journey to the afterlife often emphasized roles as heads of families, warriors, and public leaders. Their mummification rituals typically included symbols of authority, power, and protection. Scepters, weapons, and regalia, all meticulously tucked among linen wraps. Imagine strolling through the corridors of ancient workshops, where artisans deftly placed miniature models of chariots or finely crafted daggers alongside the future regents of the Elysian fields, essentially furnishing them to command realms vast enough to suit their earthly ambitions. In stark contrast, women's mummification rites often accentuated fertility, beauty, and domestic grace, themes intricately interwoven with their cultural identity. Their bodies might be adorned with jewelry and charms, echoing the poem of life they once poised to convey. From necklaces inlaid with beads to fine linen gowns, the Egyptians prepared these women to be the eternal embodiments of radiance, echoing divine feminity's steadfast pulse, and sometimes, with pragmatic elegance, the essentials of daily life, like bottles of scented oils, were finer than Cleopatra's cherished Cleopatra wig. Intriguingly, the boundaries of male and female roles could blur within the sacred rites, with priestesses, particularly, bestowed honorific positions marked by symbols of power and wisdom. The revered priestesses often received burial rites akin to those of their male counterparts, reflecting an acknowledgement of their significant roles within the religious and spiritual domains, a fusion of matrimonial and mythological archetypes. Adding a light-hearted dalliance to this narrative, the discovery of playful charms shaped as fertility gods, clandestinely tucked into mummy wraps. One can't help but chuckle at the ancient matching Egyptians of a comedic charm bracelet stashed away like sacred Easter eggs in the divine pursuit. Such whimsical plays intersperse the long shadows of these cryptic halls with moments of levity, little reminders that where the sacred interlocks with the mundane, life shines. Yet, as with any sweeping narrative, moments arise where traces of societal hierarchy and expectation manifest in uncomfortable echoes. Women's roles, although enveloped in their divine beauty, often reveal the roles they held, from loyal wives to venerated queens, yet subject to patriarchy's riverine currents. Amulets may offer glimpses of resilience, enduring love inscribed loosely in gold, but they also whisper stories that were often defined within the constraints of their time. Intricate strands woven in cultural traditions looms. There remains constant debate amongst historians concerning whether these gendered traditions evolved across dynasties or firmly stood their ground as dogmatic constants. As each archaeological discovery emerges, a stone of conjecture reveals the complex interplay between ritualistic adherence and elastic societal transformation. A drama both unabashedly historical yet profoundly human. Amidst the silent dialogues unfolding within these mummified legacies, a shared reverence for humankind's complexity weaves these rites into a sophisticated dance, a reflection of identities conceptualized through time's eye. As you explore the nuanced hallways of this ancient realm, Empowerment through gender acknowledgement extends far beyond merely birth and death, beckoning a gaze into the kaleidoscope of cultural perceptions, tracing lives in the art of living and thus dying. While the whispers of gods may echo, bolder and brighter with each layered glance into these mortuary practices, you find yourself at the narrative's heart, refreshed and receptive, with an empathetic embrace that honours the memory of lives tenderly etched in eternity, with each rap and personal talisman bound into the ever-evolving guide for both the known and the uncharted trails through times forever. As you continue to navigate the winding corridors of ancient Egyptian tombs, surrounded by the weight of history and expectation, you encounter yet another captivating layer of their intricate funerary practices. The magical spells and inscriptions, whispered through hieroglyphs, meant to protect and guide the deceased. These inscriptions, protective and potent, lie suspended in stone, offering insight into the minds of an ancient people who sought to infuse the journey to eternity with words of power and comfort. Imagine, for a moment, the hushed reverence of the artisans who inscribed these spells upon the walls, the quiet confidence etched into each carefully carved line. Hieroglyphs transform into more than mere language here. They become talismans, imbued with the very essence of divine protection to safeguard against the unknown threats that plagued the path into the afterlife. Each symbol echoes with the intention of its creators, as solemn and sacrosanct as any sacred chant uttered through time. Deconstructing these hieroglyphic spells reveals tales of classic quests surrounding the soul's journey, a sort of antiquated choose-your-own-adventure narrative, where the outcome is as ethereal as the afterlife itself. With enchanting whimsy, each inscription captures the imagination, plotting courses through star-hilled nights, endless desert mirages, and otherworldly encounters fit for inclusion in even the grandest cosmic opera. Central among these magical inscriptions is the renowned chapter of Coming Forth by Day, an essential component of the Book of the Dead, which served as a gossamer thread guiding souls through perils and temptations. A metaphysical passport of sorts, this sacred text granted the deceased safe passage, entry into the Hall of Mayat, and eventually to the serene and bountiful field of reeds. Unlike the passport stamps you'd find crammed at customs, securing divine favour is decidedly without modern queuing disasters. In the haze of torchlight, imagine spirits transfixed by the inscription's ethereal glow, navigating celestial waypoints into the afterlife, audaciously woven into reality by Egyptian priests. Each elaborately carved line infuses spirits with a script for transcendence, a reassuring quality like a lullaby sung across the vastness of eons and starry vistas. Yet the power of these spells wasn't limited to just the majestic script of the Book of the Dead. Egypt's belief system meshed divine words with life, engraving protection rites into amulets and personal items, symbols of preventive potency against malevolent forces. Every amulet, bracelet, and scarab was a lyrical fragment, memorized within divination, shaping destinies both mundane and mythopoetic in narrative. Amidst this abundance of charms and incantations, humour played its part in the inscriptions, albeit subtly. A delightful anecdote about a bewitched papyrus stocking told through hieroglyphs ensured a good laugh, even in the afterlife. It's a testament to the Egyptians' understanding that playfulness and divine intervention need not be mutually exclusive. Beyond veils of rain and sand-dust clouds lies whispers of eternal arguments among modern-day scholars. Historians continue to debate the deeper purpose of these hierarchical hieroglyphs. Do they represent a true belief in magic, or a sophisticated literary method of ingraining values? Either way, these inscribed spells tease at the edge of anthropological understanding, revealing layers of human psychology that were timelessly aware of mortality's mystery. Inscribed doors and walls, unfolding these mirrored paths, provoke musing upon the dualities of heaven and earth, life and death. As protectors through ambiguity, these spells are testimony to our ancestors' spiritual convictions and their desire for perpetual peace. A narrative attempted through timeless transcendence beyond mortal confines. In the solemnity that pervades these halls, the ancient Egyptians imbue their solemn whispers into both life and everlasting journey, etched for eternity onto the doorway of destiny. With each inscription, a promise crescendos, prophecies fulfilled in the script's protective embrace. As you venture onward, deeply attuned to these symbolic echoes, the hushed past holds your hand with eternal assurance, guiding you gracefully through time's phantasmal embrace. These magical spells remain, forever awaiting to cradle the souls who dare traverse both written word and cosmic silence, an exquisite balance between the human spirit's vulnerability and an eternally steadfast universe. There is comfort here in these derelict scripts, solace written into the grains of stone, a sacred harmony resonating across all of time. Emerging from the mystical aura of ancient spells, you stumble upon the curious realm of Egyptian mummies as they wander, rather spiritedly, into the corridors of pop culture. Here, in cinema, literature and art, mummies have undergone a metamorphosis, morphing from sacred relics of eternity to iconic figures in horror, adventure, and even humour. This cultural journey underscores humanity's unwavering fascination with the past, and its uncanny ability to reinterpret ancient symbols for modern entertainment. Imagine mummies stepping off the pedestals of sacred tombs and onto the vibrant sets of early 20th century cinema, their regal bandages playing well into the tapestry of suspense and supernatural allure. The image of a lumbering mummy, arms outstretched, has become synonymous with the eerie elegance of classic horror films. Universal Studios' 1932 film The Mummy, star-packed with Boris Karloff, gave birth to this cinematic archetype, rooting it in popular imagination. Karloff's Imhotep, wrapped in dusty bandages, represented not only ancient Egypt's mystique, but also the thrilling allure of the unknown, a spectral figure caught between slumber and wrath. Cinematic mummies thrived with human-like yearnings, often motivated by love, in particular reviving romances across millennia. As plot demises strike, imagine ancient priests hopping into modern dalliances, and what follows is a monumental chase between the hearts of lovers destined, a potent cocktail of passion, suspense and romance brewed pleasingly in popcorn-scented theatres around the globe. More than just fear and adventure, mummies pervaded light-hearted stories, capturing imagination through animated series and whimsical plots. Think frantically reanimated bandages in children's cartoons like Scooby-Doo or The Mummy the Animated Series, where these ancient figures morphed into engaging characters, diffusing fear in lieu of fond chuckles, transformation mimicking myth expanded beyond darkness into mirth. Who can forget the sheer dynamism of Brendan Fraser in the 1999 action-adventure film The Mummy, bringing ancient curses and comedic bravado in remarkable accord. Replete with devil-may-care escapades and tongue-in-cheek scripts, these stories catapulted mummies from their hushed resting places to prime real estate within multiplexes, delighting audiences worldwide. In literary circles, mummies grasped an enchanting device for weaving narratives of suspense and intrigue. They've served as terrifying antagonists, mystical plot ornaments, hinges for romance, and deep philosophical reflections on life, providing writers like Anne Rice and Elizabeth Peters, among many, a cauldron of inspiration brimming eternally with potential. Whether their tales evoke dread or exploration of undying whisperings between the agent of storytelling and reader, mummies endure in the ink-drenched pages of suspenseful adventure. Beyond screens and pages, visual art celebrates mummies in thought-provoking interpretation, serving as metaphors for transcendence and transformation. Andy Warhol's pop art mummy prints, evidence of the isolating steel gaze, mingle anecdotal nuance through pulp canvas voices. Like sirens echoing ancient cries of authors post-lifetime, mummies embody a perpetuation of reinvention and the eternal draw of curiosity. Within pop culture critiques and debates flow ardently, sometimes humorously, about appropriations in modern retelling versus historical accuracy. Scholars entertain spirited exchanges on whether reviving mummies onto contemporary stages serves merely as spectacle, or probes deeper ponderance on identity, immortality, existential pursuit, and narrative reconstructed undertaking universal threads. Like pharaohs surveying their storied kingdoms, historians query where the portrayal becomes parody, balancing hilarity with heritage. Yet stripped of museum silence, these mummified representations remind us of one universal truth boundless across the millennia, an incessant curiosity, echoing the vast chambers of time, perpetually rediscovered, redefined, and reimagined through the kaleidoscope that is human creativity. Even now, as you exit through these corridors of imagination, meld with mystery and allure, you recognize mummies as emblematic bridges connecting history's verdant echoes. Like a well-worn paradox collecting cultural ricochets, holding promise and presence. Casting a light-hearted lens, humanity embraces anew. As you forge onwards, interwoven amulets of entertainment and ancient myths accompany you mindfully, leaving pressured footprints trailing anew. You observe with certainty that beneath bandages and across tales endless, humanity's narrative endeavors persist, forever resurrecting worlds abundant with mystery, interlaced with creativity, and overflowing with the timeless joy of discovery still grandly scripted past each corner turn. As the dance of pop culture mummies fades, your journey takes you deeper into the recesses of history, where the whispers of lesser-known pharaohs and queens echo with stories waiting to be unearthed. Nestled in the folds of time, and between the towering reputations of their more famous counterparts, these forgotten rulers crafted lives defined by intrigue, ambition, and the grand narratives of ancient Egypt. Stories preserved within humble tombs brimming with secrets. Imagine stepping into the shadowed confines of a burial chamber, where whispers of forgotten royal names mingle with the rugged silence of centuries. Unlike the grand edifices of Giza or the resplendent Hall of Kings in Luxor, these humble resting places offer fleeting glimpses of wisdom, governance, and strategies that once steered the winding course of Egyptian history. These are the voices of monarchs whose reigns, though quieter, were no less significant in their day-to-day vigor and impact upon the kingdom. As scholars delve into these forgotten narratives, they uncover rulers like Pharaoh Sobekneferu, one of Egypt's first known female pharaohs, who reigned during the late 12th dynasty. Her legacy, though fleeting, whispers powerfully across time, embodying a shift in gender dynamics within Egyptian leadership, an echo that speaks to resilience and ground-breaking governance. Her reign, though short, saw the continuation of major building projects and consolidating power, leaving a mark palpable to scholars amidst the shadows of history. The reign of Nefernefer-Uaten, a shadowy figure from the 18th dynasty, remains shrouded in mystery and speculation. Was this a pharaoh in her own right, or merely a regent keeping the throne warm for King Tutankhamun's ascension? Historians still probe the significance of this lesser-documented ruler, piecing together fragments of evidence as if assembling a mosaic lost to shifting sands where royal lineage intersected with opaque strategy, a captivating and enduring narrative puzzle. Smaller tombs boast Siptah, a youthful pharaoh whose depiction among royal annals is brief yet coloured with intrigue. Reigning as a boy king at the cusp of royal transitions, Siptah's legacy partially lies with treasures some nefariously spirited away by powerful advisors. Ambitious shadows gliding over this fledgling sovereign, still enshrined within our reconstructions of Egyptian regency plays. Beyond individual rulers, the lesser-known East Valley of the Kings hides humble mortuary temples revealing gargantuan cultural shifts, often missed by opulence's charm elsewhere. Ordinary day scrolls capturing royal insights less gilded, yet replete with humanity's flourish and fall. Of course, not every tomb holds tales of peace. For instance, imagine controversial Pharaoh Akhenaten, who posited monotheism through Atonism, witnessing the sun-drenched temples he once worshipped being dismantled by descendants wishing logical continuity, favouring polytheism's abundant practicality. Ordinary people etched dissent into pictographs that, centuries later, expose a brisk ideological battle trembling below the grandeur reserved for cosmic overseers. These stories, often overshadowed by grandiose pharaonic legacies, teach us about societal dynamics, challenges of governance, and the intricate web of diplomacy and familial plotting woven into Egypt's oft underappreciated tapestry. They're a study of the day-to-day monarchical dance, a spirited balance maneuvered by rulers climbing amidst societal pressures toward personal destiny's decree. Yet, even now, as you trace patterns across unremarkable stones, detangling narrative implications within each corner, it's the enchanting unknowns whispering destiny's song. Historians continue to argue about the choices made, motives misunderstood, or judgments left inscribed upon elements nurtured between strategic wisdom, journalized for heaven and earth to thumb through eternally. These less storied lives continue to offer scholars endless fascination, an ever-expanding frontier of research, and an intimate glimpse into the multiplicity of human ambition governing Egypt's dynastic brilliance. You find yourself reflecting on the timeless themes of power, change, and continuity, so often hidden amid the turbulent seas of time. As you walk amongst these lesser-known tombs, gaze upon their enigmatic glyphs, your contemplation turns toward finding liberation within obscurity. Here, pharaohs reside on the fringes of greatness, yet their contributions gleam, like treasured jewels buried deep within Egypt's historical necklace, held for generations further untold. From these intimate echoes of human leadership, you gather narratives and lessons, bridging mortal impermanence with curiosities yet to align. In the margins of ancient Egypt's grand theatre, flooded with whispers meant for those who dare listen, through those mild, gracious nocturnes, time remembered once past, every dreamed corner turned. Waiting against the moonlit veil for another dawn's resplendent reveal. As you continue this timeless voyage through history, the echoes of the past converge with the present, drawing you into the modern world, where technology unfurls its magnificent wings, casting new light on Egypt's enigmatic mummies. Here, on the cutting edge of science, the secrets of the ancients are being revealed with astonishing precision, allowing us to peer into the very fabric of a society long shrouded in mystery. An intersection where tradition and innovation dance in fascinating harmony. Imagine the sterile, controlled environment of a modern lab, a stark contrast to the dusty tombs and shadowed corridors of Egypt. Within this clinical setting, CT scanners hum with electric life, spinning around mummified remains, capturing slice upon slice of ancient anatomy. These digital surgeons respectfully unwrap the tightly bound layers of linen and time, revealing details that the naked eye could never perceive. Secrets once sealed within rock-cut tombs now rendered into stunningly detailed imagery. These scans unveil more than mere morphology. They speak volumes about the individuals beneath the wrappings. Scientists can discern signs of diseases, nutritional habits, and injuries suffered in life, painting rich, vivid portraits of existence along the Nile thousands of years ago. Look close enough, and you might feel the reverberation of human emotions etched within their bones. A testament to lives lived with spirit and resilience despite ancient rigors. Consider Lady Tijoux, her remains illuminated under modern isotopic tests, revealing hints of a diet rich in meat and grains, each bite a narrative of wealth and status that resonated through the corridors of power in the 18th dynasty. Her sonorous echoes sublimate through scientific findings, reanimating whispers of dinner tables laden with history's repasts. Not merely a digested past, her lived morrows resonate, archiving awareness subtler than stone. Yet despite these profound revelations, mysteries linger. Historians still argue about the specifics of Tutankhamun's premature death. His CT scans showing a broken leg or complication, a drama perpetually staged upon age-old speculation, and the spectre of murky kingdom politics illuminated in scans with electric precision. In the thrumming heartbeats of laboratories, DNA analysis elegantly strides amid both trillions of coded facts and whispers, echoing across generational divides. Imagine ancient genealogies pieced together, ancestral relationships woven tighter than Pharaohs' silk tapestries, siblingries peeling away unashamed and reciprocal before laboratory lenses. Within this sphere, we've seen how the famous Khnum-Nakht and Naktank, long believed to be full brothers within their rich tomb, were through relentless genetic drumming revealed as half-brothers. Perhaps a far older intrigue lurks within layers peeled from DNA strands. It's a reminder that family lines, like tombs themselves, conceal untold narratives within their quiet shadows. And let us not forget the fascinating allure that microbiome analysis holds as well. The microbial worlds within, an invisible testament to ancient people's health and environments. Each microbe may hold clues to their death's foregone cause or contracted maladies millennia apart, yet modern through forensic deduction. Think of it as unique time travel, an exploration of a civilization through the lens of the unseen ecosystem flourishing within the desiccated remains. These arrays of knowledge are aided by virtual reconstructions, melding biomechanics with artistry. Immersive reconstructions, visualized as rooms come alive anew. Forgotten ceremonies as sophisticated as theatre, stage reanimated, breathing modernity upon long overlooked artistry. Amidst this drive for discovery lies an ongoing debate. Does stripping away such layers, even digitally, preserve or intrude upon time-held sanctity? These questions persist, urging discourse steeped in the ethics of exploration, balance, and respect for cultural heritage. Each discovery within the scan's brilliant light offers us a choice between reverence and intrusion, a dance ancient and ongoing in its measured possibility. Stepping away from images revitalized through coaxing technology, you marvel that amidst magnetic resonance and digital renaissance preserved Egypt, connecting the quintet of senses, painting what the ancients dreamed, unwittingly and with parched aspirations. In these journeys, aligning ancient dreams and modern mastery, you are swept into the vastness of connections realized through curiosity's lens. Bridging epochs with each tomb's unveiling, each wrapping's unravel. You grasp discovery and continuing mystery as handmaidens entwined in the inseparable weaving of time's everlasting embrace. In these echoes made vibrant in the present, the dance between past and future continues, ready to enfold you further along in its eternal celebration of the inexhaustible mystery and marvel that is mankind's history. With each touch of technology, the tapestry of Egyptian mummies becomes that much richer, offering its stories to the ever-curious onlookers who walk in history's lingering shadows and bright revelations. Leaving behind the sterile hum of laboratories and the vivid glimpses into ancient lives that modern science affords, your journey continues into the vast expanse of Egypt's historical geography, a land where the tombs themselves are as much a part of the narrative as the mummies and artifacts they hold. Imagine the sun-scorched landscape of Egypt, where the sands shift like time itself, revealing the scattered resting places of the past across the arid terrain. Here, the geography is not merely topographical, it shapes the tapestry of pharaohs and commoners, linking earth to sky and past to present. Along the fertile veins of the Nile, these tombs were meticulously positioned, the result of a harmonious interplay between spirituality and practicality. Geography played a crucial role in Egypt's elaborate burial customs, shaped by religious beliefs that aligned the physical with the metaphysical. You stand in awe at this alignment, where each monumental design strategy and tomb location became a physical manifestation of celestial beliefs, a landscape fashioned equally by the dictates of earthly rulers and divine architects. At the heart of this geography lies the illustrious Valley of the Kings, where pharaohs of the New Kingdom chose their eternal abodes. Imagine the grandeur and mystery surrounding its jagged limestone cliffs, each tomb hidden within the rugged embrace of the terrain, a testament to the ingenuity of architects who sought to protect these sacred spaces from the ravages of time and potential tomb raiders. Positioned on the west bank of the Nile, the valley symbolically aligns with the land of the setting sun, a powerful metaphor for the journey to the afterlife. But it's not only the great pharaohs who found their eternal peace here. Nearby valleys, like the Valley of the Queens, and others less renowned, serve as testament to those less glorified in historical memory, yet equally meaningful within the cultural panorama. These sites held the remains of queens, royal offspring, and favoured nobles, providing an intricate map of dynastic interplay where lineage, service, and proximity to the throne determined the immortality of one's resting place. Stepping beyond the grandeur, consider the more modest landscapes where commoners and lesser officials made their marks along the desert's edge. The tombs of craftsmen at Deir el-Medina, for instance, reflect a different sort of communal legacy, constructed by those who themselves fashioned the sepulchral wonders that sing pharaonic praises. Here the tombs stand as companions in both life and death, housing artisans and workers who, though distant from regal halls, shared a kinship in divine craftsmanship. Each necropolis, each solitary tomb, nestled within this topographical embrace, often combined burial traditions with local materials and the geography's spirit. Limestone was hewn with exacting precision. These catacombs potentially draw you in, inviting you to trace the contours where sand and rock tell tales as enduring as any chisel-scribed prophecy. Yet, despite the beauty, modern exploration has raised questions about the sustainability of interaction between cultural heritage and environmental preservation. Historians, archaeologists, and conservationists continue spirited dialogues about preserving site integrity, while navigating the balancing act of sharing these wonders with the world. How to honor the delicate equilibrium between age-old sanctuaries and contemporary curiosity remains a vibrant discussion, shaped by the tongues of ancient winds. Amidst the wandering sands and echoing cliffs, you find the design of tombs as extraordinary, a geographical cipher of sorts, where secret passages and hidden chambers test your perception of space versus reality. a testament to humanity's quest to transcend mortality and root permanence in transient landscapes. Each shift of stone and sand speaks to eras long past, offering a continuously redefined map of existential and cultural territory. In this exploration of Egypt's historic geography, you walk through time's corridors suspended between land and spirit, the ancient Nile whispering secrets into the eternal ear of its companion sky. From every valley rise the stories of those who dared to imagine permanence, a dream of eternity cradled gently in the relentless flow of both past and present exploration. You stand listening to what the tomb spires reveal, sheltered within Egypt's own natural embrace, comforted by continuity as you journey to where earth and horizon gently meet. Unfurling tales of enduring legacy, left to dance within shadow and sunlight yet to come. Through these silent monuments, you trace both history's path and your own, an ever-deepening realization that every ancient mark carved into the land breathes with the warmth of discovery, enfolding you within its resonant embrace. With the vast and storied expanse of Egypt's landscapes etched in your mind, your journey takes an intimate turn, as you uncover the tender stories hidden within the tombs dedicated to the cherished companions of the pharaohs. Royal pets. These animal companions, as integral to royal life as grand viziers and sacred priests, were not just footnotes in the annals of history, but beloved members of the royal family, honoured in death as in life. Step into these smaller sanctuaries, where the stories of human and animal bond are carved into every stone, telling tales of loyalty and affection that transcend the ages. Imagine a quiet chamber, tucked away in the cool dimness of a tomb, where a pet gazelle lies interred in proximity to its royal owner, wrapped with care and reverence. The simple yet profound connection between pet and ruler, once alive with playful companionship around the palace, now immortalized in the sacred realm of the afterlife. A narrative thread running true across time. Within the folds of these tombs, you encounter exotics like baboons and falcons, intertwined with royal accolades. Baboons, associated with Thoth, god of wisdom and writing, might have been treasured for their perceived intelligence. Imagine, if you will, these flossy creatures capering about the sunlit courts, their antics bringing smiles to hardened rulers near and far. Falcons, meanwhile, symbolizing the god Horus, were treasured not merely for their regal beauty, but for their embodiment of divine protection, soaring high as emblems of royal courage and might. These ancient ties weren't merely confined to the exotica. Dogs, arguably humanity's first domesticated animals, made their mark as trusted hunting companions and guardians, their loyalty celebrated in the form of enchanting statuettes, or in some cases dedicated burial stelae. Each bark, echoing nostalgically amid ancient colonnades, symbolizes the inherent protective duties within their sleeves, a symbiotic relationship revered through the passage of time. Cats, of course, emerge as particular darlings of Egyptian royalty. The goddess Bastet, often depicted in feline form, underscores the divine association with these creatures, revered not only for their hunting prowess, but for their embodiment of grace and poise. The symbiotic dance between royals and their feline friends unfolds in friezes where every whip of a cat's tail finds fluid motion in rock-drawn reliefs, each swirl knitting richly into the narrative. As you can imagine, ancient Egyptians might have been the original purveyors of what you might now call cat culture, their love for these animals stirring reflections of cylinder-spun purrs and kitten play remnants across palace chambers and temples. Historians continue to speculate on whether these pets were perceived as carriers of divine favour or simply cherished for their companionship. Their presence in tombs, though unwaveringly dignified, raises enchanting questions about how the connection between species and spirituality manifests over time. Did the Egyptians believe they'd be greeted in the afterlife by four-legged companions, as ethereal as the wind itself, or did they trust that these animals' spirits might intervene on their behalf among the pantheon of gods? And of course, in our modern age, Egyptologists and animal biologists joyfully engage with the enduring dialogue. What might these creatures dried into immemorial form reveal about our mutual journey? From studies that identify breeds and examine ancient grooming techniques, to DNA explorations that uncover bloodlines, the modern lens unlocks history with each tail pull or whisker twitch revealed across tomb shadows. Through these intimate glimpses, you come to understand that the tale of Egypt's royal pets is one of devotion and shared joy, immortalized alongside the monarchs themselves. The tombs speak of love sacred as any ceremony, a timeless, silent dialogue between people and animals, now hidden beneath time's watchful gaze. In these tender enclaves, where devotion meets eternity's loom, you sense a deeper connection, a transcendent bond, pooling history in a collective breath, where loyalty, trust, and love endlessly unite. Here, among the quiet stones, the noble silhouettes etched in stone recall shared past adventures, and gentle spirits return to enfold their royal charges, woven tenderly under the desert's eternal embrace, past lives beckoning together into a world forever boundless, like time's own gentle memory adrift. As the echoes of fond companionship slowly recede, your journey through the tapestry of time leads you to marvel at the evolution of tomb architecture itself, an architectural journey that paralleled the rise and fall of dynasties. Each change in style marks a shifting approach to spirituality, power, and eternity. From the modest early mastabas to the grandeur of the Valley of the Kings, each tomb tells a story of evolving beliefs and aspirations. Picture the dry sands of Saqqara, where the earliest tombs stood as stepped mastabas, rectangular structures rising above the desert plain, like sturdy siblings pushing curiosities of status and simplicity forward against shifting skies. These mastabas served as the embryotic form of monumental burial architecture, where the afterlife's promise began with solid foundations, a material echo of humanity's quest for both humility and grandeur. With prowess and ambition, these basic forms gave way to the towering giants of ancient wonder, the pyramids. Each stone became a spoken syllable in a grand poetic tribute to the divine and the enduring legacy of pharaohs. The iconic Great Pyramid of Giza stands as a testament to the vision and engineering brilliance of the time, drawing the eye skyward in a celestial alignment that was also a mathematical masterpiece. It wasn't just a final resting place. It was a manifestation of regal divinity, where each merger between dream and architecture was hewn into eternal statements of power. These expansive stone monuments markedly shifted again as economic factors, environmental concerns, and security measures required adaptation. Enter the hidden tombs of the New Kingdom. Pharaohs chose to carve their final homes deep into the unyielding rock of the Valley of the Kings and Queens, seeking seclusion and protection, mirroring both eroded complexity and introspective dream. This evolutionary shift brought ornate designs that eschewed massive overt displays for meticulously decorated interiors rich with storytelling. Corridor walls bloomed with symbols and vibrant frescoes, maps for the soul's passage, where every stroke sang ghost notes across elaborated history, illuminated by oil or fire-lit hues dancing against plaster like sunset fireflies caught upon childhood dreams. Think of them as ancient graphic novels, spooled to illuminate life and legacies through compelling narratives graven into stone. Such frescoes alongside complex burial arrangements were both triumphs of artistry and narratives blending sacred text and colourful tableau, a timeless spectacle woven by artisans who tread lightly in the sanctuary of the afterlife's architects. In parallel to these changes arose necropolises like Deir el-Medina, as mentioned before, shining lights on the workers who crafted these divine residences, maintaining familial ties closer to the stone walls they left decorated. Within these sections of earthied ground architecture, workers' tombs reveal societal nuances reflecting broader community values, where each humble abode demarks life's hierarchy through symbols lovingly aligned with earthen glory. Amid these changes, historians debate what next motivated the transition from pyramid to rock-hewn tomb, weighing stories of pragmatic safeguarding against looming economic circumstances, or more esoteric shifts in Egyptian theology that rendered divine alignments somber mysteries, quietly shifting from sky-high monuments to whispered echoes in earthbound caverns. Even in this metropolis of time, evolving styles pose the question of how these transformations reflect not only on Egypt's grand narrative, but on humanity's constant recalibration of how we relate to life and death. As these tombs evolved, they heralded changing philosophies, connecting eras through dynamic expressions of spirituality, lineage, and legacy that still resonate with the timeless murmur of ingenuity and identity. In your journey through these architectural advances, you realize each tomb forms more than just a shell into history. They inform a story of evolution, where each choice and design connotes the balances of ancient society. Whispers of stone enfold you as you traverse through time's echoed sculpting, of aspiration, worthy both, and its departed in every grand arc raised in dignity and insight. Mapped into descending steps of history, tombs trace paths not merely aligned upon stars, but charted along time's horizons, where each chamber and cliff-locked cleave narrates nuanced dialogues, unmistakably ancient, yet endlessly interpreting the infinity that enshrines the moment's mortal pulse memorably to transform, rising steadily and poetically to life's temporal events and dream's eternal embrace. Venturing further into the labyrinth of history, your path leads you to one of ancient Egypt's most enigmatic and controversial figures, Pharaoh Akhenaten. His reign introduced sweeping religious changes that were as transformative as they were transitory, leaving behind a legacy that continues to intrigue historians and archaeologists alike. The mystery of Akhenaten lies not just in his atypical interpretation of divinity, but also in the unique and often puzzling architectural and artistic styles that emerged during his rule. Akhenaten, originally known as Amenhotep IV, ascended to the throne during the 18th dynasty, and quickly set about redefining Egypt's spiritual landscape. Imagine a land steeped in the symbolic comfort of its long-venerated gods, now faced with an upheaval as Akhenaten placed the sun disk, Aten, at the zenith of worship. With a swipe of royal decree, he transformed traditional polytheism into a revolutionary monotheism, shifting divine focus to a single god whose eternal light he believed suffused everything. Central to this theological reformation was the creation of a new capital city, Akhenaten, modern-day Amarna, a stark departure from the traditional seats of power. Akhenaten was designed to reflect the new spiritual reality, its buildings oriented in alignment with the movement of the sun, symbolizing the pharaoh's divine connection to Aten. The city flourished, with temples and palaces each suffused with light, airy colonnades and open courtyards, designed to capture the celestial essence as never before. Architecturally, Akhenaten's reign also instigated shifts. The sculptural and artistic styles became more naturalistic, revealing the pharaoh with elongated features, wide hips and a soft stomach, suggesting perhaps an embrace of both masculine and feminine qualities, or a connection with the divine. Critics and scholars toy with these ideas, like sculptors rounding an unfinished marble slab, pondering whether the artistic representations were symbolic or literal depictions of the ruler. A timeless debate immortalized in stone. Akhenaten's statues and reliefs often portrayed him in familial settings, emphasizing intimacy and everyday life, a radical departure from the stoic and divine representations of his predecessors. This artistic evolution extolled humanity's bonds with the divine, depicted through tender scenes of the pharaoh interacting with his family, including his equally enigmatic queen, Nefertiti. Here, in the portrayal of shared smiles under Aten's benevolent gaze, one glimpses the intimate philosophy underpinning Akhenaten's religious vision, a monarch who quite literally saw the light. Nevertheless, Akhenaten's monotheistic doctrines were met with resistance, an unwelcome fit for the traditionalism deeply embedded within Egypt's cultural and religious fabric. He and his successors were often bypassed or deliberately omitted from later official king lists, essentially erased from the royal narrative. After Akhenaten's death, the old pantheon was swiftly restored, and the city of Akhenaten was swiftly restored, and the city of Akhenaten was abandoned, its sunlit visions turned to whispers in the sand. Historians remain divided on Akhenaten's motives and legacy. Was he a visionary ahead of his time, carried away upon dreams of harmony with the divine sun? Or was he an autocratic idealist bent on dismantling the established order with scant regard for the lasting consequences? Debates continue like threads woven into the narrative fabric of history, each argument embodying human complexities and ancient mystique. Modern excavations have provided new perspectives on Akhenaten's reign, as dig sites at Amarna continue to yield artifacts that offer glimpses into everyday life during this brief yet fascinating period. From workshops thrumming with the art of a new age to homes constructed with sun-baked bricks, these discoveries paint a picture of a vibrant cultural chapter overshadowed by its ephemeral boldness. Remnants nestled in the dunes, awaiting rediscovery and rediscovery, past time's desert wind. As you stand amidst the ghostly echoes of Akhenaten's avenues, enveloped by scenes of light filtering through the dusty veil of time, You grasp the profound weight of human aspiration entwined with daring exploration. Akhenaten's reign, reflected in the sands and stones, captures the eternal tension between innovation and tradition, a timeless chant running steady through history's corridors. Through these traces and shadows, the story of Akhenaten lives on, an enigmatic reflection of eternal will and ephemeral dreams. A beacon of light cast upon the sands, still echoing in stones both cast down and set apart by the sun's eternal gaze. As you continue your journey, Akhenaten's illumination, controversial yet continually captivating, guides your steps along the echoed sands of transformed antiquity. As you move beyond the revolutionary shadows cast by Akhenaten's reign, your journey brings you to the intriguing world of the Nubians and their mummies. Historically intertwined with ancient Egypt, the Nubians present a unique perspective on the practice of mummification, showcasing cultural nuances that both mirrored and diverged from their northern neighbors. Rebirth, rebreathe. In the land of Kush, nestled between the first and sixth cataracts of the Nile, the story of the Nubian mummies unfolds. A tale interwoven with cross-cultural influences, regional adaptation, and a shared reverence for the eternal. Imagine yourself walking along the sun-drenched banks of the Nile, this time southward, into the heart of Nubian lands. This region, with its expansive desert landscapes punctuated by the grand curves of the Nile, was home to the mighty kingdom of Kush, a civilization with rich cultural heritage, closely linked yet distinct from that of the Egyptian dynasties. In this sepulchral tableau, Nubian tombs reveal a compelling tapestry of burial practices. Unlike the imposing pyramids or hidden rock tombs of Egypt, many Nubian tombs take the form of large stone tumuli, a marked departure in architecture, reflecting local traditions. Inside these chambered mounds lie the mummies, adorned with artifacts and wrapped with linens, in a custom not entirely unlike that of Egypt, yet infused with the richness of Nubian symbology and local tradition. The Nubians adopted aspects of Egyptian mummification practices, demonstrating the deep cultural exchanges that occurred over centuries of interaction, trade and conquest between these two great civilizations. In Nubian necropolises, such as those at Meroe and Napata, the influence of Egyptian style is evident in the use of hieroglyphs and the inclusion of Egyptian gods in tomb art and artifacts, illustrating a fascinating blend of beliefs. However, the Nubians infused their own unique beliefs and practices, reflecting their cultural ethos and worldview. Nubian queens or kandaks were often powerful in their own right, ruling either alongside their kings or independently. Their tombs, therefore, were grand and lavish, filled with necklaces, bracelets and amulets that tell of a rich matriarchy that defined the social landscape of Nubia. This presents a dynamic narrative where women played pivotal roles both spiritually and politically, a theme less pronounced but present in Egyptian governance. The Nubians also placed a significant emphasis on animals in their burial practices. Archeological discoveries have unveiled buried horses alongside royals, often with lavish ornamentation, indicating the high esteem in which these animals were held. This practice reflects both practical and divine considerations, illustrating the intertwined relationship between humans, animals, and the afterlife. Recent archaeological investigations shine a light on the technological innovations present within Nubian burial practices, including the use of vaulting techniques in tomb construction and unique embalming methods that diverge in subtle yet significant ways from their Egyptian counterparts. These practices highlight an evolution of mummification reflecting both the constraints and innovations influenced by geographic and cultural specificity. Scholars still deliberate the extent to which Nubian culture impacted Egypt, and vice versa, with each new discovery adding complexity to this rich historical dialogue. Were Nubian practices simply adaptations, or entirely new iterations of an existing tradition? Were the Greeks and Romans who came after influenced by the Nubian version of Egyptian customs? The scholarly debates play out like spirited discussions, capturing the vigorous interplay that characterized the millennia-old relationship between these two vibrant cultures. Standing amidst the archaeological remnants, you sense the enduring legacy of Nubian civilization, a nexus of cultural synthesis, adaptation, and originality that echoes across the sands. It's a reminder that history is neither static nor singular, but a living testament to collective human experience. As you contemplate these vast interwoven historical tapestries, There's a deep and abiding respect for how traditions melded yet retained individuality, where the cultures of Nubia and Egypt intertwined and flourished, crafting legacies both shared and distinct. In this journey, one cannot help but admire the resilience and adaptability of human culture, ever growing, ever changing, rooted in both earth and stars. Through Nubian mummies, the whispers of Kushite triumphs and tribulations resonate, prompting reflection on humanity's shared journey through time. Continuous, united in diversity, an infinite narrative that still unravels, with each discovery of life and death upon the sands of Africa's eternal river. As you approach the final chapter of this immersive journey through time, you find yourself slowing down, savouring the rich tapestry woven by the stories of ancient Egypt and its mummies. In closing this expansive narrative, it's time to reflect on how these secrets unearthed inside the tombs have offered glimpses into a world long past, connecting us through time and unlocking age-old mysteries that continue to shape our understanding of humanity, spirituality, and the afterlife. Throughout the chambers and corridors of these ancient pyramids and hidden tombs, we've travelled through civilizations whose lives were inextricably linked to the promise of eternity. From the grand, sunlit avenues of Akhenaten's singular vision to the shadowed corridors echoing Nubian whispers, these journeys through both light and shade reveal truths about human nature, our desire for immortality, our quest to understand the universe, and the deep connections we forge with each other along the way, not just in life, but in death as well. Now, as the spectral glow of hieroglyphs slowly fades to the gentle closing of stone sarcophagi, we understand that these mummies, wrapped in their linen cocoons, are not just remains, but storytellers. They speak of the grandeur of pharaohs, the faithful endeavours of artisans, and the intimate bond between human and divine. They whisper of the ordinary lives woven into the extraordinary narrative of a civilization dedicated to the next world, even as they transform this one. Pressed gently onto hidden pages, their tales invite us to perceive these ancient pathways not simply as relics, but as lessons carved into the living stone. These are monuments to the very spirit of timeless inquiry that we carry forward, always seeking knowledge amid the silences that time enfolds. Historians continue to debate the finer points, scientists continue to probe deeper, and every discovery opens new questions. Such is the endless curiosity that drives the human spirit. As we cherish these legacies, we find ourselves in a tender dance of recollection, a weaving of past and present resonating through the spaces between one breath and the next. The tombs invite each of us to look beyond the sands, to imagine the possibilities wrapped within the folds of history and lost in the reverent hum of eternity. So, as you step softly away from these ancient thresholds and into the embrace of night, let the stories rest gently in your heart. The past, with all its mystery and magnificence, lays a soft hand on our present, guiding us forward as curious wanderers in an ongoing journey. With the sands whispering around you and the stars tracing silent arcs overhead, remember that Egypt's mummies hold fast the secrets of time as guardians of tales both bright and shaded, forever inviting us to listen and to discover anew. And as you drift gently to sleep, let the ancient whispers weave a soothing tapestry of dreams, a lullaby sung across the ages by stone and sand, enfolding you in the timeless embrace of history's grand narrative. With closed eyes, imagine the infinite stories yet to be told as the tombs and their secrets slowly release into the wind. Greater than, greater than, greater than, greater than sweet dreams.